I am a good dad, 26 years old, and a good husband. I've worked my butt off for my family. I started a company to give my kids a better life than I grew up with, and I'm the most caring husband I can be. I work a lot since my company is only 3 years old. My wife, 24 years old, stays home with the kids who are 2 and 4 years old. She has been a stay-at-home mom from the start because I wanted that kind of life for her and our kids. My wife has been wanting to get a break, so she asked to sleep in a hotel and go up to Salt Lake City with her friend whom she hasn't seen in years the next day. I trust my wife, so I say sure, that's okay. That was last week. When she got back, she was just being so rude to me for no reason because the kids made a little mess, and I didn't clean it up right away. By the way, the day before her hotel visit, I worked a 30-hour shift overnight on a job, got 6 hours of sleep, then stayed up another 26 hours to work, and then moved furniture around the house to get the windows done. I fell asleep for 2 hours, then got up to get the kids out of the house while she headed up to the hotel. She was rude to me the rest of the night. I later found out she was talking bad about me to my sister as well that night. Anyways, the next few days were kind of the same with her just being rude. Then, about 2 days ago, she comes home after being gone for hours, is rude to me at the start, then flips it to being super touchy and nice, and she tells me a story. She says she saw a friend at a gas station, then ended up meeting them at Target and talked to them for an hour in their vehicle. She said she was telling me this because my sister texted her. She saw her at Target and wanted to tell me what was up. It turns out she had been really meeting with a guy who was a family friend of mine that I've known since I was a kid. She told me she's been only talking to him for a month, and she insists she didn't sleep with him. I asked about the hotel, and she said he never came, and he was on a business trip. This person works for a tinting company. I looked through her phone, and she was using Instagram vanish mode to talk to him, so I can't see anything that was said. I'm freaking devastated. I look for her friend's messages, and she had not talked to that friend in 43 weeks. I asked her about that, and she said the chick is in a hurtful relationship, and she had to use Instagram vanish mode. Pretty convenient. So I worked my butt off to get her a hotel room just so she can frick another man. She swears up and down they only kissed once, but how could I ever trust her? How does that even make sense? She pressed me so hard to go to the hotel and to get home the night she went to Target. I've been so good to her, but she threw it all away. Her family has been trying to get me to forgive her when she has lied to them about the facts too. They keep saying they only kissed and shoot. Are you kidding me, man? I feel broken. I was the best I could be. I wish I could stay, but I simply can't. I feel like I could die inside right now. I haven't slept other than passing out drunk. I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop wanting to die, but I can't do anything like that since I have kids. So am I the idiot for divorcing my wife for cheating on me with a family friend? Edit. I have already talked to my lawyer, but I needed to talk to my wife about how we are going to switch off with the kids. She still thinks there's a chance for me to stay. She's begging me not to leave, and I keep trying to tell her nothing will change what happened, and this is the end. Edit 2. She insisted she was a stay-at-home mom. She always flaunted it to her friends, and she never wanted to get a job, even when we were going through some tough financial times. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. First, not the idiot. Second, the real way to get back at her is to not get blackout drunk, but get your shoot together. Become the best version of yourself, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Keep being the best dad that you can. Be as good as possible, so every time she thinks of you, she thinks, FK, I wish I still had him, while you're living your best life with hopefully a much, much better partner. Sending you mad good vibes from a Reddit stranger. Comment 2. All of the above, plus the fact she treated you like shoot right after because of her guilt. It's all textbook, dude. Nothing special about her. She's following a checklist for cheaters. You know for a fact this dude railed her. Did you talk to him yet? Nobody gets a hotel room to kiss. Not only does she not respect you or the relationship, she thinks you're stupid. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a rough few days, but I've got some updates for you. So, after I found out about my wife's betrayal, things just spiraled. I couldn't look at her the same way. Every time she tried to touch me or talk to me, it felt like a slap in the face. I remember how she used to brag to her friends about being a stay-at-home mom, how she loved the life I was providing. It stung to think that all the while, she was lying to me, to everyone. 2 days ago, I was at home trying to keep it together for the kids. They're too young to understand what's going on, but they can sense the tension. My wife came home and she was all over me, trying to be affectionate. It was like she was trying to erase what she'd done with a few hugs and kisses. But I couldn't forget the late nights I'd worked, the sacrifices I'd made, just for her to throw it all away. Then the bombshell dropped. My sister, who's always had my back, came over. She was hesitant at first, but she finally told me she'd seen my wife at a bar with the same guy she met at Target. My sister had been there with friends and couldn't believe it when she saw them cozying up together. She snapped a photo on her phone and showed it to me. My heart sank. There they were, laughing, his arm around her. It wasn't just a kiss, it was more. I confronted my wife again. This time she couldn't deny it. The photo was proof. She broke down, crying, saying it was a mistake, that she felt trapped at home and just wanted some excitement. But that was no excuse. I'd given her everything, and she threw it away for a fling. I remember when we first met how she'd light up the room with her smile. We were young and in love, and I thought we'd built something strong. But now that image of her was shattered. I couldn't even recognize the person in front of me. Her family has been on my case too. They keep calling saying we can work it out, that it was just a one-time thing. But how could I trust her again? How could I forget the image of her with him, the lies, the deceit? Yesterday, I sat down with her to talk about the kids. It was the hardest conversation of my life. She begged me to stay, to give her another chance. But I couldn't. I told her we'd have to figure out a custody arrangement, that the kids needed both of us, even if we couldn't be together. She still didn't seem to get it. She kept saying we could go to counseling, that she'd do anything, but it was too late. I'd already talked to my lawyer, and the wheels were in motion. I couldn't just forget everything and move on. The trust was broken, and without trust, what do we have? It's been a nightmare, trying to keep things normal for the kids while my world is falling apart. I've been staying in the guest room, just trying to get some sleep, but it's hard. Every time I close my eyes, I see them together, and it's like a punch to the gut. I've been trying to focus on work, on the company I built from the ground up. It's been my saving grace, a distraction from the chaos at home. But even there, it's hard to keep my mind off things. I remember how proud my wife used to be of what I'd accomplished, how she'd tell everyone about my business. Now, it all feels tainted. I'm not sure what the future holds. I'm just taking it one day at a time, trying to be strong for my kids. They're my world, and I'll do anything to protect them from this mess. But as for my wife, I don't know if I'll ever be able to look at her the same way again. She was my partner, my best friend, and she betrayed me in the worst possible way. My stepdaughter fakes nursing my baby and posts pics, claiming she's the mom, so I take the baby and leave until she gets therapy, and we uncover her diary with a plan to be top daughter. This situation is harder than a normal situation due to us having full custody of my stepdaughter, and her only seeing her biological mom once every 4 to 6 months. However, I have told my husband I'm going to stay elsewhere until he checks his daughter into therapy. For a bit of context, I have been involved in her life since she was 5, and we have had full custody of her for 4 years. I gave birth 5 months ago, and there have been things happening that I'm not okay with and never will be okay with. These things were not present prior to the baby arriving, so I know it's due to the baby. For example, she is in complete competition with the baby, based on looks alone. Like she will be holding the baby and say, "I'm so much prettier than you. You will never be prettier than me. You're just jealous that I'm the gorgeous one," etc., etc., all in a baby voice. When my daughter smiles at her, she looks at me and her dad and says, "See, even she agrees with me. She knows she will never be as gorgeous as I am." We have asked her why she feels like she's in competition with a baby and not for the normal thing like attention, but physical looks instead. And she always says things like, "I'm not in competition with her. There's no competition. I'm just gorgeous and need to make sure she knows." The other thing is that I breastfeed, and nearly every time that she holds the baby, she comments on my daughter trying to nurse off her. Like if my daughter grabs her shirt, she immediately says things like, "She's trying to take my shirt off and get to my breasts," and makes comments to the baby saying, "You're being inappropriate. Do not try to take my clothes off. You're weird. Those are my breasts." And she's 100% serious, like she's really trying to accuse an infant of trying to strip her. I've talked to her about it. I've talked to my husband about it. I've talked to both of them at the same time. I've blatantly said that her attitude surrounding the baby makes me uncomfortable and untrusting. But apparently, I'm blowing this out of proportion because it's not even a big deal. It is, though, to me anyways, because it's every time she's near the baby. But today I had gone out to the car real quick, and when I came back in, my husband told me that his daughter had the baby in her room. I go in and see my stepdaughter laying with the baby in a nursing position with her back turned to me. I walk in and ask what is going on, and she immediately acts disgusted and says she's trying to take my shirt off again, and moves away from the baby and physically pulls her shirt down, big t-shirt that she had pulled up. I grabbed my baby and started packing. Husband comes in and asks where we are going. I tell him, me and the baby are going to stay elsewhere until he gets his daughter into therapy because of what I just witnessed and the fact that I don't trust her around my infant anymore. I told him I had tried talking to him and her both several times, and I'm done talking. He gets her help or I'm not coming back home. He says I'm blowing this out of proportion, and he's sure that it wasn't what it looked like, and that I'm ignorant for being willing to take the baby away from him and his daughter during crucial bonding months. I told him if he had taken me seriously to begin with, then it wouldn't have come to this. He can visit. She cannot until she's in therapy and working through her obvious issues. Am I the idiot? Ite. I start work here in 20 minutes, so I won't be able to comment as I have been. Thanks for the input so far. I appreciate you guys. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. I am disturbed by your husband's lack of appropriate response. How can he listen to his daughter, insult his own newborn child, make comments about attempting to breastfeed her multiple times, and not think there is something going on that requires intervention? He allowed this to escalate and enabled your stepdaughter's behavior by not confronting her at the very beginning. You did the right thing by leaving. He didn't and isn't taking you seriously. And I hope that whatever path you take from here keeps both you and the baby safe. Comment 2. Kids mental health registered nurse here. Trust your instincts and keep the baby safe. I'm sorry, but Dad has his head in the sand and he's doing both kids a disservice. The worst kind. Your stepdaughter is acting out her fears, at the least. I feel for her, but your baby is defenseless and could be harmed even if that's not your stepdaughter's intention. It doesn't seem like she wants to hurt the baby, but she's crying out for help. I'm so sorry your husband is shirking his dad responsibilities so much. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been 2 weeks since my last post and a lot has happened. I know you all have been waiting for an update, so here it is. After I left with the baby, things got really tense at home. My husband was calling and texting nonstop, trying to convince me to come back. He said he didn't see the big deal with his daughter's behavior and that I was overreacting, but I stood my ground. I knew something was off, and I wasn't going to put my baby in a situation that made me feel uneasy. The heartbreak hit when my husband finally admitted that he had noticed his daughter's strange behavior too, but he didn't want to face it. He confessed that he was scared of losing another woman in his life. His ex, my stepdaughter's mom, had left them when things got tough, and he was terrified of going through that pain again. I felt for him, I really did, but our baby's safety came first. In the midst of all this, my stepdaughter's behavior escalated. She started posting pictures on social media with captions implying that she was the baby's mother. It was like she was living in a fantasy world where she was the center of attention. My husband finally saw the seriousness of the situation when relatives started asking questions. He agreed to therapy for his daughter, but the road to finding a therapist was rocky. We had to deal with insurance issues and finding someone who specialized in this kind of family dynamic. Meanwhile, I stayed with my sister, who had been a rock during this whole ordeal. She reminded me of the time when we were kids, and she would stand up to bullies for me. Now, she was helping me stand up for my own child. The first therapy session was a disaster. My stepdaughter threw a fit, screaming that she didn't need therapy and that everyone was just jealous of her. The therapist was patient, but it was clear that this was going to be a long process. Then came the jaw-dropping moment. My husband found a diary my stepdaughter had been keeping. It was filled with entries about how she felt replaced by the baby and how she planned to make sure everyone knew she was still the number one daughter. It was heartbreaking to read her inner turmoil, but it also confirmed that we had made the right decision. The confrontation happened when my husband sat down with his daughter and talked about the diary. She broke down, admitting that she felt like she had lost her dad to the baby and that she was scared of being forgotten. It was a raw, emotional moment that none of us were prepared for. Surprisingly, this breakthrough led to a better second therapy session. My stepdaughter started opening up about her fears and insecurities. The therapist worked with her on understanding that her worth wasn't tied to her looks or competing with a baby. As for me, I've been slowly rebuilding trust. I've started visiting home with the baby, but only when my husband is there. We've had family sessions with the therapist, working on communication and healing as a unit. The biggest surprise came when my stepdaughter asked to hold the baby during one of my visits. I was hesitant, but the therapist encouraged it under supervision. It was a tense moment, but for the first time, my stepdaughter held her sister without any snide remarks or competition. She just looked at her with what seemed like genuine affection. It's not all fixed. There's still a long way to go, and I'm not ready to move back home yet. But there's a glimmer of hope that we might come out of this stronger as a family. My husband has been more supportive, and he's starting to understand the importance of addressing issues head-on instead of brushing them under the rug. My girlfriend won't marry me for years and avoids intimacy due to religion. But after I find her texting her ex, I stay, and she starts therapy while I wonder if we'll ever be the same. Hey people, I am very conflicted about something and can't sleep over it. Me, 29-year-old male, and my girlfriend, 25-year-old female, have been dating for 4+ years now. We love each other very much, and everything is great except one thing. I understand and respect her religious beliefs, and even accepted all her conditions and religious rituals for potential future marriage-related things. I wanted to meet her family for a long time. She met my family, yet she didn't take any steps towards that either. She also does not want to stay overnight, but she is okay with and loves to come over to engage in light intimacy activities that do not include any penetration. I feel like I am sacrificing too much without getting anything back in return. Committing myself between ages 25 to 35 to a single woman without having any intimacy sounds too harsh to my ears, and I need some opinions on this matter. I really love this girl, and we have gone through so much, but I can't get over these issues. She comes from a religious family and doesn't want to have intimacy before marriage. I totally understand and respect that, but she also doesn't want a marriage even though we have been together for 4+ years, and according to her, it will be another 3 to 4+ years before a marriage becomes viable. She also does not want to stay overnight, but she is okay with and loves to come over to engage in light intimacy activities that do not include any penetration. Edit. Thank you everyone for your comments. I read them all, and some of your comments made me finally able to sleep well at night. Sincerely, thanks from the bottom of my heart. Since some of you have asked, here is more info that may be relevant. 1. She stated that she would reject me if I proposed to her since she doesn't feel ready yet. She wants to sort things out in her life, live alone and work and provide for herself for a while before marrying. She had never lived alone or worked a day before. She said she would tell me when the time is right so I can propose then. 2. The reason she never worked is complicated. Her father got sick 2 years ago, and they have been taking care of him since then. Father needs light medical care. It is not like he needs 24/7 full attention. Girlfriend is able to go to different cities for a few days or weeks just to see some family members, so she is not completely immobile. 3. I never tried to push my way through her and expected her to give in and have intimacy. I always said I'd want to have intercourse myself, but I also said I was fully okay even if she wanted to have no intimacy acts whatsoever, which she rejected because she wanted to have some intimacy activity, but just not penetration. 4. I live alone and work my own job and do not provide anything to her or her family. Even though I am not rich, I can provide for myself. Her family also doesn't need any external providers and are well off, with a beautiful house and several cars. They can easily live without working for years. Her older brother, 32 years old male, has been doing this for about 2 years now, despite him being married and having a child and their father being sick. They just do not care about money and have enough to not care about it for some decades. 5. I am not celibate. I have had intimacy intercourse with my ex-girlfriends. 6. The reason she did not make me meet her parents, there is none, really. She just says that she would feel nervous and her family may push her into marriage sooner if that happens. 7. Of course, we have talked about this before, and it is not like I waited 4 years just to think about all of this stuff. Now, whenever we talk about these issues, she says that she feels nervous and needs time. She is happy to have me in her life and that I am giving her strength when she needs it the most, and she could not bear losing me. That's it. All in all, your comments here made me realize that perhaps she and I are just too far apart from each other mentally, and she just doesn't see me as the right person or is not committed to this relationship as much as myself. I'll edit this post in a week after we both have another talk about this. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. You need to break up. She probably also has a whole heap of religiously ingrained trauma around having intimacy at all. The sex is bad indoctrination doesn't just disappear with wedding vows. It can really mess with your head. You might stick out the next 4 years to only find out on your wedding night or in the weeks after that there is a whole lot of guilt and shame around having intimacy. Then you have wasted 8 years of your life. You two are just not compatible. She is religious and partially abstaining, and you are not religious. Time to move on. Comment 2. Are you saying you haven't met her family? Bro, actually, I never make comments like this, but this sounds like a big problem. I grew up moderately religious and go to church regularly now and know lots of nutty Christians, and I've never heard anything like this. And there is nothing remotely normal about this kind of behavior. Sure, church will push no premarital intimacy, but waiting a decade to get married and to not have met the family. I can't overstate how not normal that is. Now, for the update. Hey people, thanks for all the advice and support you gave me last time. It really helped me to clear my head and prepare for the talk with my girlfriend. Well, a lot has happened in the past 2 weeks, and I'm here to update you on the ride that's been my life. So, after reading your comments, I decided it was time to have a serious conversation with my girlfriend about our future. I was nervous, but I knew it had to be done. We sat down, and I laid everything out on the table. I told her how much I loved her, but also how I felt like we were stuck in limbo. To my surprise, she broke down and confessed that she had been feeling the same way. She admitted that she was scared of marriage because of her parents' rocky relationship. Her mom and dad had a loveless marriage, and she was terrified of ending up in the same situation. This was the first time she had ever mentioned this to me, and it hit me hard. I understood her fear, but I also couldn't help but feel a little betrayed that she hadn't trusted me with this information sooner. We talked for hours, and it seemed like we were making progress. She even suggested that maybe we could start planning to meet her family soon. I was over the moon. It felt like we were finally moving forward. But then the twist came. A few days later, she told me she needed to go out of town to visit a sick relative. I didn't think much of it at the time. However, when she came back, she was different, distant. I couldn't put my finger on it, but something had changed. One night, while she was asleep, her phone kept buzzing. I know I shouldn't have, but I looked, and there it was. Messages from her ex-boyfriend. They weren't just friendly catch-ups. They were planning to meet up while she was visiting her relative. My heart sank. I felt like such a fool. The next day, I confronted her. It was the most intense argument we've ever had. She cried, saying it was a moment of weakness and that she didn't go through with it. She begged for my forgiveness. I was torn. Part of me wanted to believe her, to forgive her, but the other part felt like I couldn't trust her anymore. In the end, I decided to give her another chance. I love her, and I believe in second chances. But things are different now. We're trying to rebuild the trust that was broken, and it's not easy. She's finally agreed to let me meet her family, but the joy I once felt about taking that step is overshadowed by the doubt and hurt. We're taking it one day at a time. She started therapy to deal with her fears of marriage, and I'm trying to be supportive. But there's a part of me that wonders if we'll ever get back to the way we were before. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.